And we're live.
We're live. You know what I've just realized?
What?
It's been a year.
It's been a year.
It's been a year
since we've done the last episode.
Mm-hmm.
That's has it?
Almost exactly to the day. I think we ended it like somewhere December 15th, December 12th. I don't know, something like that. But it was mid-December, and then we were going to come back with a metaverse podcast.
Oh yeah.
I did a lot of research into how and what would make that work.
I talked to a lot of people last night. I stayed up till like maybe 5 a.m. last night in the metaverse.
Wow.
On Horizon.
You know, I used to do that for about a few weeks there. I was in the metaverse for hours at a time. Wanted to digest it, put like $50 into it just to play around and things like that. I ended up getting sick.
Yeah.
The blue screens, because there was always a cell phone, a TV, and now my entire vision was encompassed in this blue screen. I got sick, and I had to not look at screens for about 3 days before I could get back to normal. And so my journey into the metaverse ended. By that time, we'd lost the consistency,
right.
And the project was a bit overwhelming. I figured out how to do it, but there were so many layers to it.
Right.
It just I guess let it drop.
Right. I'm talking to some people, and I told them that we're going to be doing a podcast and looked at some options of distribution.
Oh, sure.
So these are the people I was talking to. They're builders on there. They have events. They got this lady, she had a winery and she was showing me, and other people was coming in as well. But every Wednesday she has a wine Wednesday.
Yeah.
Where, they let you know what wine they're going to get. You order the wine from,
and you taste it with them.
You taste it with them.
And that's fun.
They said they had
it's like Gary V 2.0.
Yeah.
Well, before we get into distribution, and why don't we talk about why we're back, why we've changed the name, and what we hope this means, and will become.
Right. So what we're going to be doing, we're going to be, just to fill everybody in, we're going to be changing or transitioning Meet Columbus into Meet Thyself. And the purpose of Meet Columbus for us is a way for us to expand our network, be productive on Friday nights, and also be consistent. And for that whole year that we did Meet Columbus and the events, I think that
it was healthy.
It was really healthy.
We both loved it because of honestly, we built a little purpose around it.
Right.
And the know thyself or meet thyself, a lot of what we've been talking about lately is finding purpose, describing what that is. Right. Finding how we align with our own purpose and the discovery with it. And it's not always so simple, but I know that you and I both explore and use a lot of different tools, and we read a lot of different knowledge, and we listen to a lot of different people, in an autodidactic fashion. We like to learn, but when it was Meet Columbus, we were focused on the external, on the network, on the professional development and building.
Right.
And even, we've found some success with those things, but that doesn't change the internal struggle. The only thing it can do is enlighten us to what some of those struggles might be. So the purpose of this is to explore, find purpose, introduce others to tools as we run across them, and share what works with us on the journey. We will still be trying to find other people, but the theme of it is not going to be, what are you doing in Columbus, but what are you doing inside yourself?
Right.
And I think the theme of this year, correct me if I'm wrong, but the ideas will come from within us. But I think that the theme of service and the purpose of service, which is what, if you read, is the answer, Our purpose here is service.
Right.
We want to create this to serve.
Yep. And we know a lot of other people are also going through the same struggle. We're such goal driven people, and sometimes hitting those goals isn't enough. That's not we can keep trying to build on top of.
You can hit a number, but that doesn't
and,
mean the anger is gone.
Right. Exactly. So I think this would help us. We're going to have a lot of special guests on here. We're going to have different people that are really deep in their purpose. And they may be people in Columbus. They may be people from all over the United States, across the world.
Yeah.
I mean,
Elon wants to contact us from space. We talk to him probably.
Right. Yeah. We'll talk to him too,
Well, I honestly want to talk to everybody.
Yeah.
And I'm not an Elon fan at all. I'm kind of anti-Elon. I'm on that side of the tracks.
Yeah.
But one of the challenges I want is to interact with and respect the ideas of people that I might not initially feel a good way towards.
Right.
To leave that open and at worst leave with a feeling of neutrality.
Right. And even, I'll say people like Elon, or people like I don't know about Jeff Bezos, but Elon, a lot of people know his purpose. They know he has a really, it's something that having sustainable energy, kind of like colonizing a different planet. It's kind of like he lives that purpose. So I want to have people that are I don't want to just have some millionaire on here that's just rich. Because there's a lot of fake people with purpose. Oh, I want to build generational wealth. We all do, right? We all want to build money for our family.
Man, I've been thinking about that lately in an interesting way. And honestly, you telling me the story of how your mom cut you off at 16 spurred a lot of those thoughts. It was really interesting. It comes back to self-reliance. Mm-hmm. But before we ramble, one of our goals is definitely to make this podcast more organized, to get it into different technology streams, and to have whoever needs it have it. Right. I think we should discuss where we are at right now, and the types of tools, what we've been working on, the types of tools we've been using, and kind of where we're going from here, if that makes sense. What personal development things have you been consuming, and what have you been practicing lately, and why? What is the purpose of that practice?
Things I've been practicing lately is consistency. And it's not just, there's things I'm consistent. I'm very consistent at very important things, right? I get up and I work every day. It's not a length of time or anything. I do some type of work every day. I'm very consistent at that. That's something that I used to struggle with before. But I'm also reintroducing new habits into my life, and I'm starting very small. Like we talked about. I'm running on my treadmill for 10 minutes a day. I'm meditating for 2 minutes a day. I'm doing these little things consistently because I know as time goes on, they're going to become a part of my identity, and it's going to work out better.
It sounds like you've crossed that threshold of trading long-term gratification for immediate gratification.
Right. Yeah.
And that's something that I think all of us struggle with. But you say you're consistent. You say that you start these little habits. Mm. For the people who want to do those things, but somehow just can't, and they don't have it yet, and they want an easy tool to be able to start that and remind themselves of the motivation, why they're doing it. How did you transition from that, I'm not doing these things every day, to I'll gladly do these things every day? Because that's the type of tool that people, I think, need. We all know consistency is the answer, and that's starting small habits, like people who learn like us, we read Atomic Habits. We understand these things, but it's right here that hurts.
Right.
So how do you change? How do you get that tool? What do you use to now be in that?
I mean, for me, and this is a step I actually haven't done, but to stick with it for if I was to even take it a step further, I really like writing it down. Like remind yourself, put a reminder on your phone, like, hey, remind yourself, or writing it down. Now, for me to get started, if I say, hey, I'm going to start going to the gym. There's no tomorrow. Unless it's late at night, there's no tomorrow. There's no, I'm going to wait till the first. There's no, no, it's the weekend.
Immediacy.
Do it now.
Yes.
Do it now. Like
that is one thing I learned from a mentor once. There is no time like right now. And if you can make it your instinct, as soon as you have an idea to execute on it, every second that goes by with that hesitation, that space for not doing it grows.
Right.
And so it sounds like the habit that you've made is, I don't want to keep messing around with old Aaron that would not be consistent. I lost my train of thought.
But I'll say like this, kind of like what we did the podcast. And we're literally about to do it now, right? We jumped on it. We're doing it.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
Like
it's the immediacy,
right?
That's also something I learned a little while ago, and there's actually another layer that I've been working on that with lately, because I usually don't have a problem with immediacy. Whenever I have an idea, I like to take action on it, and that's been developed over years.
Right.
What I've learned is that even if there's a motivation and an idea, it can be easy to do it if you want to do it.
Right.
But very often there's a shadow or darkness within us that prevents us from doing it, and say, wouldn't this be easier to not do right now?
Right.
Just lay down for a little bit and be warm, stay in bed a little longer. Like, I have a very specific tool that I found that I've been working on consistently for the last month, and I've seen little changes here and there. And all the tool did was make me aware of when I was avoiding something. So do you have something like that? Do you
help me
to remind yourself when you lose that motivation?
No, not as of right now. No. I kind of just do it.
You kind of just do it. You've changed your subconscious to know that long-term investment is better for you. You've grown to accept that on a subconscious level, so you don't have to think about it anymore.
Right.
And I guess what I'm trying to do is figure out, for the people who haven't learned how to do that, what are the things they can say to themselves to get them to that. And it's something I have been working on lately, because consistency is not one of my strengths.
Right.
Large spurts of sprinting energy are. And so I like to basically let off an atomic bomb once in a while, and then the fallout has to occur and I have to build another one.
Right.
But for me, as simple as it is, it's reminding myself that doing the hard thing is usually the right thing.
Right. Say, I'll do the hard thing first.
Do the hard thing
Swallow
first.
the frog in the morning, or I think that's what somebody said.
Yeah.
Swallow the frog.
And so I've used a technique developed by Phil Stutz, which I saw a documentary with Jonah Hill on Netflix, and then I bought the book and did my research, and it was immediacy. Actually, I saw what they did. I saw it immediately have an effect, and so I dove headfirst into it because I wanted it. I was motivated to use this tool more because it helps put the fire out, helps tranquilize the bear. The tool was, running towards pain, realizing that, pain keeps us from reaching our goals. And so there's a tons of things you can say, and I say things a little bit differently to myself. My word is do the hard thing, but they say, first, you say, bring it on.
Mm-hmm.
Second, you say, I love pain. And third is, pain sets me free. If you say that to yourself enough, by the way, I'm going to pause here. The only thing that I found that that really works in all humans is repetition. The difference between our theories and us actually doing things is how stuck it is in the subconscious. You're doing things every day because it's now stuck in your subconscious. You don't have to consciously make that decision anymore.
Right.
But for a long time, you had to repeat to yourself, I need to make that decision.
Right.
Repetition and dedication to that repetition is difficult, but it's the only thing that works.
Right.
So you have to want it. You have to be obsessed with it. And that's what I was. I'm obsessed with ending the war in my soul. I'm obsessed with finding my nature. I'm obsessed with growing past all of it and trying to bring whatever light I have in me to the world. That's not my subconscious yet. But I've been repeating it to myself more and more lately. It's getting a little easier to get there. So do the hard thing and tell yourself every single time that there's like the triggers get faster and faster. They get shorter and shorter. The first time it's like, oh, that was the hard thing that I avoided. Or, you know, it takes me a long time. Like, God, I don't want to do that. Wait, that's the hard thing. That's the thing I don't want to do. Does that mean I have to? All right. Punch through it, and then whoa,
you know, I just kind of realized something that made me think of like how I kind of like is becoming more consistent, because the base of it is you know, during the pandemic when I was trying to figure out everything with wholesaling, with real estate, I learned a lot of principles that they taught me, like about consistency. And like, like calling homeowners every day, they don't answer every day, but you got to keep calling. And then one day they just answer. And then like you almost win the gold. Right. I realized that I take some of those principles and I can now glide it over to many things. And that made me think of people that are in the military. They get up, they come out into the workplace and they're super reliable. They're I think they're still applying the same principles that they learned from the military, because you learn everything that's hard, that sucks. You're like, you don't know how to do it. They wake up still, everything.
I think, and I've been actually thinking about the military a lot lately. I don't know if any of this is true, but I have to think that if you're on the battlefield, death is all around you. But the more you fear death, the more likely you are to meet it. Because I think that fear cripples us. And fear might keep us alive, but in certain situations, our fear does the same thing our anger or our sadness does to us. It makes our minds very small, very myopic, very, very singularly focused. And so we can't actually think. Doing the hard thing requires doing what you're afraid of.
Right.
And doing what you're afraid of requires you to start attempting to master fear.
Right.
That can get dangerous. Don't go jump in Antarctic water if you're afraid of it, like tomorrow, train for shit. But.
Right. I think there is a quote, fear only exists where you're like not prepared. When you're unprepared, fear exists. So
there's a great quote by Orson Scott Card that goes along with that. When you have more knowledge, you have less fear.
Right.
When you know your enemy completely, you then must love them.
Yeah.
Because it's the unknown that we fear. And so if we can start to wrangle that, and it's not like fear ever goes away. I mean, some people might be born without that fear thing, but for us mortals and normal people, fear has been a huge part of my life. And I repeat mantras to myself every single day to bolster my courage. Because the fear doesn't go away, but it doesn't have to be an enemy.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah. And that's kind of why I want to take martial arts.
Yeah.
Like the better you are, the more prepared you are. Like life is like a chess game. Like if you don't have
a chess game on a windy beach with paper pieces.
Yeah. But if you lose a piece and you make a mistake, it's your fault. It's not anybody.
No, you can also do everything right and still lose.
I mean, the other person was better.
It just means the
Like,
winds are going that way. What if you're trying to go east and the winds are only blowing west? A lot of it is knowing thyself.
Right.
And knowing where your nature is. When you know a nature, you can use it to its fullest ability.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's being prepared and being. What are you working on? What are the things? The questions that you have for me? I don't know if you answered them already for yourself, or
do you remember any of them that I directly asked, or do we have to rewind?
I thought you asked one and we kind of just went off into.
I asked a few. So what am I working on, and what are the tools I'm using? I went over one of them, which was to do the hard thing. And the mantras that I repeat to myself is now do the hard thing, but I had to get there by repeating the, bring it on. I love pain. Pain will set me free. Having those images in my head and remembering the satisfaction I got whenever I would do one of those things.
Mm.
Now I'm excited about doing the hard thing. I've tricked my brain into being excited to do the hard things. That's really fun. I love that. It doesn't change my personality. I still have a lot of, temper that I hold on to. There's still a ton of fear there, but that's why it's called work. It doesn't switch off. It's not a light switch. It's a dedicated rewiring of the brain that can only happen through time and effort and pain.
Should try cold showers in the morning.
I should. You're right.
People.
I'm not going to. That sucks.
Of course,
that is absolutely the hard thing to do.
That's the point.
I ain't there yet.
You got to jump in and be like, "Fuck, this sucks."
Yeah,
and it's like,
right now I use it for chores. I use it to, do the online things. I used it to let's get this podcast restarted. I use it when I want to sit down in the mornings and reflect my thought, but I am. It's not the first thing that happens when I wake up.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. Like I do have to work on it every day. I imagine if I knew that jumping in the shower, that thing was directly going to get me to the results I think I want, yeah, I'd do it every day.
Right.
But there is no direct motivation to do that one thing. And so that's still something that, like, I definitely have fear about jumping in a shower. I don't want to do that. It sounds like really painful with no reward, blah, 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 blah. You're right. It's probably the right thing to do. We'll see if I start.
I wouldn't say so. I mean, I say when I was in my 20s, starting an entrepreneur, a lot of the YouTube.
Actually, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to disagree with you. I don't think the cold shower is the right answer.
No, that's what I was going to say. That a lot of that stuff I used to do, like journaling, meditating, cold showers, but I didn't do the work.
You just did. I
thought it was going to bring
knowledge
and work, and I'm going to become a millionaire by jumping in hot cold showers.
Yeah, that's the lie that everyone tells.
Like,
if you just do these little things, you can be this. No, man. Like, I figured out that I have to be that before I can do those things. I have to be in a good space. I have to be I have to cut my tethers before I can ever meditate every day.
Right. And I feel like those things will be actually useful to me now, because I've hit, like, okay, do the work, build a skill.
Meditation is
now
hella useful for me now.
You know,
I can reset my brain and go into another subject now when I meditate. That's useful. It's a tool.
Right.
But I can also calm my butt down. But before, I wasn't needing meditation. I needed love, acceptance, and validation. And meditation will get you to neutral, but it's not going to provide those desires.
Mm.
It's going to help you relieve some of the pressures from those desires, but you have to go. I had to go out in the world and bump into things and get rejected, and still all the time, in order to really realize, like, what's my reflection? Like, what is my actual nature amongst all these people? I'm not saying anyone can, but if anyone does go to the Himalayas and meditate in solidity for, 25 years, what have they really accomplished besides peace within themselves? is the purpose peace within ourselves, or should the purpose be to share our peace with everyone we can?
Right. Right. Yeah. Doing the meditation should be for, I'll say the word busy. I don't know, productive people, because we're trying to find peace right within the day. But like I said, I was meditating for 10 minutes a day, maybe for like 2 weeks at a time, or journaling or doing cold showers.
Mm-hmm.
It was nothing. What was I relieving myself of?
Like this is probably a good time to talk about what I'm doing right now, which
Okay.
I do every year.
Okay.
And it definitely aligns with Sober January, which I've been doing for 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
First 3 years, I did not do it. I couldn't do it. I made it like 3 weeks, things like that. And then I have a little one here and there and excuses, but I got better at it every year. Now, one of my tools that I use, and it's kind of an incredible tool. I love it. I created my own yearly calendar, and you know that I've explained it to you before. Right. But it has 9 months, 40 days each, and a 5-day week that does not coincide with the rest of the year, and it starts the day after the solstice. So I've already celebrated my New Year's. I'm in my Sober January, but for me, that's not so much alcohol anymore. I don't drink anymore. My body can't take it. I'll have, God, half a shot of whiskey once every month and maybe half a beer a week at best. But like even then, it's my thing is pot. I love pot. There's when I go sober, there's this tension in me that is the source of so much anger and frustration and all these things that I typically mute by smoking weed. And it's like it dulls the sharpness of my mind, but a sharper knife cuts more fingers.
Right.
And so with the duller mind, I'm slower, less clear, but I'm also way nicer to myself. And I'm way nicer to other people. Mm. And so this time of year is called Fire and Flame. And for these 40 days, it is a cleanse of the previous year. I give up whatever my addictions are at the moment. This year was video games and pot. Previous year, it's been drinking, things like that. Anything to numb the fire. But I've often found myself being like, why am I doing this? What's the point? It's like when I ran a half marathon at mile 10, I'm like, I'm never doing this again. I get no enjoyment from it. I don't have pride in it. I know I can do it. Mm-hmm. Running sucks.
Right.
After that, I couldn't run for 3 months because my knee got busted. I didn't stretch in the right places. I learned a lot about my body from it, but I'll never run another half marathon. I have no desire to. And there are people that are like, I've got to run half marathons or I'm not who I am kind of thing. And like, that works for them. It's not my journey. And so you're right. Like these little things that they don't mean anything to you, or you're just doing them to do them. It's not going to do anything. But I've realized that I cleanse myself and I sacrifice these dopamine overloads in order to grow myself and to invest in myself and to really do the work. Because, if I'm smoking pot for the rest of the year, there's a part of me which I cannot work on. And that tension gets revealed when I take it away. So right now during the month of Fire and Flame, I use the cleanse of sobriety from, my addictive video games, from pot, from alcohol, from, things that I consider as quote unquote sin, which just means off target or without. Right. Actually wrote a bunch of reasons down of why I do it. And these are what I have to go back to now. So I don't continue to think, what's the point? So what do I get? Let's see. Why do I fast from vices? Clarity of mind, mm-hmm. Emotional re-education, mm-hmm. Dopamine detox, atonement, dedication to, And finally, mental fortitude. It's a muscle I'm growing. I'm working out. That's why I do it. And when I look at those things and I remember, it gives me strength to overcome the want of those things in my life that I've, used as medication.
January is always the best time because I do the same sober January.
Even the UK and the US are pushing it. It's good, got health benefits and things like that. I remember starting it and then the next year hearing about a lot more people doing it. And I think that if we kind of let go and just listen to the world, we realize we're always in rhythm with it.
Mm.
These 2 weeks, you and I both separately were looking at purpose and controlling and regulations of emotions. I went down to my father's basement yesterday, and I should have taken a picture of it, but he had a quote on the board that was something along the lines of, in order to be like all we can, or in order to like, I'm going to quote it in my own way, which is influenced by Frank Herbert, who had a lot of the same ideas. In order to become fully human, we must have complete control over our nervous system. Without that, we are animal. And he explains it in Dune as an animal will gnaw off its paw in order to free itself from a trap. But a human caught in the same trap will lie and wait for the hunter to return. Lying in that trap with that pain and knowing, freeing yourself from that pain and being able to make the rational decision of hunting instead of being hunted, that's human. It is simpler and more natural to gnaw your own arm off. How much pain are you willing to go through? Do you know why I'm motivated to do this? It's more painful not. It's the only thing that motivates me through it, man.
Right.
Some people calling it finding yourself, finding God, finding energy.
Mm-hmm.
It's a mystery, but it's one that we can only find within ourselves. And it brings me relief. If I can share that, I will.
Right. That's a good realization, because I've came over that before. Like, sometimes it's not doing certain things, even though we don't want to do it at the moment, it's a lot more detrimental for us not to do it.
That's right.
Right? Like not going to the gym, man. I mean, if you're probably doing more harm than
if I have food in my pocket and I walk past a homeless person and I don't give them that food, that will stick in my mind longer than if I do. Because I know that this other person needs it more than me. I don't give cash though, which I think is fairly standard thing. But I don't know what right or wrong is. I just know what my heart feels. And there could be a million things that go wrong if I give people food, but I think overall that is still the right thing, and that's what my heart leads me to do. But I've walked past people many times and then felt myself hurt and gone back. Or I've kept going too. That's really painful because my fear and my weakness won. I don't like that. I don't like my fear winning, and it has for most of my life, probably since I was 8 years old. It's not going to be the case anymore. And I can confidently say that because I've been doing the work for, this is year 5. Oh, and I am a freaking infant. I know nothing, but I do know that I feel better than I used to.
That's good. And hopefully this podcast, dude, well, I know.
When else would we have when else would we have a conversation like this? We do once in a while, but they're sporadic.
Yeah.
And they don't lead to a consistency. They don't lead it to involving other people.
Right.
We don't record it. We don't try and retain focus.
Right.
But this is purposeful.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is what we get to. is this the purpose to my life? That doesn't matter right now. I don't know what my complete nature is yet. I'm trying to discover that. I'm trying to discover the self with a capital S. What is my raw, childlike, pure form, and how can I best use that to serve the world?
You never know. Might be your.
Never know.
You might get a radio deal off of here, and then you're just like a talk
like
show
Mike
host.
Pence.
People want to.
He had long hair on a radio show before he ran for Congress or whatever.
No, I didn't know.
Yeah,
that.
he was like a DJ, like nut job, like with long hair and stuff.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man,
that's what I heard
funny.
anyway.
Yeah,
I haven't done my
guess
own
you
research.
could,
I could just be ingesting too much liberal media.
But yeah, people do YouTube by accident, become very popular, and now it's
You know
like,
what though?
you
Like
know.
I'm finally getting to that. Oh God, I had a painful revelation like 2 weeks ago, and I started asking myself, what if I'm not meant to be an entrepreneur? And I realized that was so tied to my identity. It was crippling. It did not allow me the space to figure out who I am and what I actually want to do. My father was an entrepreneur. His dad was a lawyer who ran his own business. His father, worked in the shipyard during World War II, things like that. My grandfather on my other side was a dentist. And my sister and I, due to our own upbringing, have severe problems with authority and fitting into systems. We have a big fear of it. We reject it pretty violently. And so those are all things that I've been questioning about myself lately in order to give myself the grace to... What the hell is going on with you? You ever seen Wolf on Office?
No.
It's where one of the guys, he was all the entrepreneur guy. I think he was a producer on the show actually. But Ryan, him and Mindy Kaling came up with this system where if you sent somebody a message, it would go off on their phone, go off on their fax machine, like light up their Twitter. And so they were like, they sent one button, there's like Wolf. And that just reminded me of it. There were like 8 things all of a sudden going off when you were getting one notification.
Yeah, they're all linked. My watch, my computer, and then
your phone. Yeah.
So all the Apple
and your new Neuralink that you don't even know you have yet.
Notification. You swipe right on it. Swipe my eye. Just
dude, that thing is going to be used to drive advertising into our mind, and there's going to be a subscription model to it. It's not going to be what we want it to be.
Yeah.
It's another way to control.
Yeah, as soon as we think we need something, like, damn, I need a new bed. And then it's like, now we got ads for beds.
It's like, would you like to purchase this bed? And like, you're asleep and you order one in your dream.
Or no, the trial model is going to be super popular. So you're going to be able to have the bed before
you even want it.
Yeah, before you even want it. And then they're going to automatically take it out of your... It's going to automatically come out of your whatever crypto.
Do you know how Pi works right now?
Pi?
Yeah, Pi. So what you do is to mine Pi, you let them use a little bit of space on your phone and memory in order to run their network. So it's a completely decentralized browser that uses everybody's device as its own, part of the network and server. What if our brains become like that? What if we have to rent out brain space, rent out knowledge for other people, rent out use? That's going to be the new work.
Right.
Ew.
It's
not any different than what we do now, though.
They're trying to put our brains on conscious, computing systems.
We have to figure out what consciousness is first.
Right. I feel like we'll have to pay for more time, or then the warfare will be, I just gave half of their population a virus.
It'll be a mental virus. That's right. Well, we're fighting mental viruses right now. We just we have different ideologies, and there's patterns behind them, but viruses are basically just little self-producing killer patterns. Right.
And people, it's going to be a lot of the world, they were talking about last night, in the VR world, they were talking about, they didn't like some of the direction things were going. I'm like, Well, there's good and bad in everything, right?
Yeah.
Everyone, when credit cards first came out, debit cards, whatever, no one was receptive to that. Of course there's bad. What if they steal your information? What if they do that? Of course there's bad, right? Tinder came out. Who wants to date online? Like, who wants to? Now it's like, who doesn't date online?
FaceTime. You and I were talking about that.
Right.
You and I, like, that's a violation if somebody calls me FaceTime.
Right.
But your kids,
But
that's all they do.
People are accustomed to that.
Yeah.
And then one of the guys, he went to mention that, like, people got meta boobs. He was like, yeah, I know people that date, they go on dates, they never met in person, but they just do everything in the metaverse. They're together. They're together.
Hell,
like
that's
not us, of course.
But I mean, that is easily where things could go. And is it like, we don't even really know the basis of this reality, just what we can see and touch, but it's very fuzzy. I think we don't see the fuzziness because we ourselves are fuzzy.
Right.
But how's that any different?
Yeah. And a lot of people want physical touch and all that stuff. And
yeah,
soon that'll be like.
But that is an electronic signal. It's just like Morpheus says in the Matrix. What is reality other than sensory perception?
Right. There are most definitely things like vibrators that you can control on your smartphone.
Well, not even on your smartphone. They now have things you can put simultaneously on each end, and it'll do the thing for you.
Yeah. You're just that.
You're what's it called? Surrogate. Like they're little surrogates. They're machine surrogates for you.
Yeah. Life. I think we're very basic human beings. I grew up just growing up. I grew up playing games like RuneScape. I grew up almost in a virtual world. I don't know.
I learned math in a virtual world. It was on the old Macintosh with these little firemen dancing across the screen when I was 3 years old. I remember that.
Yeah, I remember that.
It was on like
those Macintosh.
Those like 5-inch floppies,
Yeah. Put in the floppy disk.
Yeah, put in the floppy disk, play some math games. Let's go.
But, playing that games as long as I did, that kind of changed my I kind of got like a virtual identity in a way. So
you've always been a lot more into that. Yeah, you've been better at that.
I've had everything. I've done that, relationships and people that's not there that give you.
I did it in my late teens because my emotional volatility left me completely emotionally dead sometimes and so overactive other times. You wouldn't call me bipolar. I wasn't manic or anything. I just had very volatile emotions, and you never knew who I was going to be waking up that day. And so my friends are and always have been, the normally diverse people who can accept that and understand it and things like that. But it lent me a lot more to being receptive online and having those social needs met. But I've grown over the last 15 years so much that I'm the opposite now. I can't converse with people online. Or maybe it's just that the entire public has gotten online and I don't know how to interface with them very well. Right. It does not come natural to me. But I was there once, but now I just want to meet people in real life. I crave that.
Right.
I crave this way more than that. I don't ever go on Meagle, but I have the most fun when you and I go on Meagle.
Right.
It's ridiculous. It's so much fun.
Because people put up a front. I think people are their rawest selves online.
See, I can't be my raw self online. I can only be my raw self here. I couldn't do this. Well, who knows if this is even my raw self? I'm still filtering stuff.
Well, not on a platform, but like something like Omegle or something where I say the metaverse is maybe a little different because there's they got community. You can get banned from there. There's
any community, dude. How's that different than Discord?
I think it's some of them are unmonitored, unfiltered. Sure. Yeah. If I go on Omegle and certain places, I get called the N-word 20 times with white people for the fun of it. And I've been receiving that and giving it. I say giving it.
You call white people the N-word?
Dude, I done everything. As a teenager online, I done been a black person acting like a white person, calling another black person. because all we want to do, all those people want to do is create a reaction. You want to create the most extreme, so you go to the extreme. Like
this is a type of validation.
F your grandma, F your dad, grandma. You say the worst, but you'll never say it to that person's face.
Yeah, fear.
Right. So I would. There's no other place where I could meet somebody that's white supremacist and hear their point of view. They probably
easily because Oprah
yeah.
did that. That's like how she got her start, man. Like people do that. There are people that do that, and they are some of the people who have defeated this fear that we talk about. I'm always impressed by those people.
Yeah.
So
those conversations, I like those conversations, the metaverse, all those type of stuff, and it was something I was about to say. Yeah, as a teenager, I remember getting on AOL on the AIM chats, and because I wasn't like popular in school, but I seeked validation from what I thought were women. I remember creating a montage or a collage of girls that said like, it's so cringy, but they were like, I love you, or this and that. So I had like their pit. It was probably like 18 different girls. And
that is a magic trick, because what you've done is you've collected all of these symbols of validation so that you can remind yourself daily that you have been validated.
Right.
That's a protection, man. Like you literally, it's the worship of idols.
Mm-hmm.
It's objectifying sex into something that's needed within us instead of something that we're sharing without us.
Right.
I get that, man. I really do. That's such a cool, natural thing that humans do. And understanding it about ourselves is part of that.
Right. We need validation. There's so many things we need. And the internet is, I think it's getting even worse with the validation nowadays, though. I don't know. I study the upbringing or the way my children react. What the difference is, how they're engaging online, what is it becoming, how the difference in behaviors. Of course, every generation is different, right? Because every generation has different technology. We weren't born into computers. Like my kids, they wouldn't even know what life is like without a phone, a smartphone, iPhone. They remember slow dial up, anything. So the patience is lower. They're actually, to me, and these are just my kids. I don't know if it's other kids.
Well, also remember, Plato said, or Socrates said the same things about kids in his day. They're impatient, they're unruly, they're the worst. This generation is going to destroy us all.
Right.
We're just getting older, man. The kids are going to be okay.
Right. Well, yeah.
Except for the existential crises. But, in the burning of the world, and climate change, and,
Well, I think we're getting more impatient. A web page don't work for 2 seconds. We're refreshing the hell out of what's wrong with the internet. We used to spend a day downloading movies on LimeWire.
Yeah,
it used to take a day.
But you would also schedule your day around that. You'd go start to download in the morning, and you'd go do your shit, and come back. But we adjusted for it, and so really we just have to adjust for our environment. When people get, I've heard a lot of wealthy people say this, is that the wealthier and the more people they have around them, and the easier life becomes, the more impatient they get, and they demand things right now, and they demand them perfect, because that is their world and that is their environment. And so they say one of the keys to staying humble as you progress in riches and wealth and things like that, besides obviously giving the community, supporting, being good, is do your own dishes. Always do your own dishes. Cook for yourself. Clean your apartment. Do these things. They keep you in touch with reality. The further you get away from work, I think the further we stray from ourselves.
So no maids, no personal private cooks. I want all those things.
I don't. I thought I did, but as I've been doing the hard thing, and life has been getting rapidly better, and it really strengthens the observer in me and allows me to work on detachment from the nervous system and my emotions and feelings and things like that. And I also remember that the observer is part of that nervous system. That which is without the nervous system cannot be spoken of. I haven't found a word or anything to be able to describe it and what I'm reaching towards in terms of my own nature, whatever pilot's behind this machine. But it's the work.
It is. It's the work.
The observer is getting stronger, and that's really useful.
Mm-hmm. You know, I was playing a game the other day, and my kids that came to me to beat it.
Oh, hey, your computer's going to die. Is it plugged in?
No, it's not.
Well, if it dies, it's been a good podcast, and actually, it's probably a good time to stop.
Oh, okay.
I think
Got a visitor.
At the end of the day, I want everyone to remember this.
Okay.
It takes work. If you want to be a rock star, you have to love the blisters on your fingers, man. You can't love being a rock star. I love the work, and I really want to find other people who love the work too. So if you're there, let us know.
So stay tuned for our next episode. We'll have a special guest, and we'll be bringing tons and tons of value. You don't want to miss it.
Cheers.
Happy New Year, guys.
Oh, yeah. Coming.